Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil A. Kulona, and this is Nashville. As he does every month, Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell is here to talk about what he's working on and to take calls from you, his constituents. If it's important to you, today you have the chance to talk about it with Mayor O'Connell. Then later on this hour, we'll hear from residents of Berkshire Place Apartments in East Nashville who are finally moving years after they were first told that they had to vacate. We'll learn what's at stake when an entire community must move. So I'd like to welcome Mayor O'Connell back to This Is Nashville at this time. Good to see you.
Khalil, good to be with you.
Always glad to have you once a month. Okay, so if you want to talk to Mr. O'Connell, our mayor, you call us 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. And always remember that the mayor and his staff are human beings just like you and me. So respect is a must. If you're elated or if you're frustrated, that's totally cool. Just show respect and care when expressing your thoughts and feelings. Again, that number is 615-760-2000, 615-760-2000. All right, we got to start with the cold weather because that's what we're experiencing right now. A couple months of dangerously cold weather we've seen. How would you rate Metro's response to managing the cold and snow and ensuring that people are safe?
Yeah, I think this has been, even just in this week alone, where we've dealt with flooding, snow, and extreme cold. It's a showcase of how much our overall metro apparatus has to be prepared. So we've had to have stormwater response and flood mitigation. We've had to deal with snow removal and cold weather shelters and all of that. And I think where we've been overall this winter, we tend to go by what we're hearing in terms of what shows up in Hub Nashville, what hits the mayor@nashville.gov inbox, and then generally just what we're kind of seeing across all the channels and people walking in the front door. And we're very pleased with the feedback that we've gotten, particularly on snow removal. Philip Jones, who's over at our Nashville Department of Transportation, I was out with him last year at one of the shift changes when we had that 8 inches of snow, extreme cold, freezing rain following it. So again, kind of a burst of tough weather to deal with. And what we've seen since then is Philip works strategically with folks in the community and departmental maps and everything else to update snow routes for this year. We did get receipt of some new state-of-the-art snow plows to add to and expand the fleet. And so what we've seen is, it was really interesting. We heard people tell us that in decades of being in the city, they had never seen a plow on their streets. And so we've been able to go from not just a primary and secondary routes, but primary, secondary, post-secondary, and to take into account Hub Nashville reports. So that's been good. I think if you add to that the flooding events, I'll just say all of our utilities and sort of the first responder scenario through the Office of Emergency Management, we've tried, when we have this extreme weather, if you go to nashville.gov today, what you'll see up on the banner is a winter weather response. And so we've had, what we've tried to put together is something that helps people understand what Metro is doing and what the impact is likely to be. And so our Office of Emergency Management kind of collects all of that information, and then we help them with our own communications team and ITS. So we're trying to get the word out. I think we've had not just council members, but community members really appreciate the level of communications there. We've tried to improve language access throughout. If you're on nashville.gov, there are some easy translation capabilities there. Last time we had an unusual event with our homelessness response. We do operate during the cold winter months an emergency overflow shelter. This really is for if our core shelters hit capacity, but also in extreme cold, if people encounter barriers at our core shelters like the Nashville Rescue Mission Room in the Inn, we open something. And so there is a cold weather plan that's in effect. A few weeks ago, we had a tough scenario where snow was falling, but temperatures had actually risen above freezing. And so the plan basically said the 24/7 operation isn't what's indicated. And so our office worked with Office of Homeless Services to expand shelter operations an additional 9 hours through a weekend of snow there. But I think it's given us some clear potential updates to the plan. But right now, for instance, we've had in this extreme cold period 24/7 operation of that emergency overflow shelter. So some of this is following a plan that was already approved. Some of this is saying we have to refine the plan in real time. And then some of it is what's also working out there. But I think across the board in terms of looking at vulnerable populations, improving access to Metro, increasing resources strategically, responding to previous winters and getting better, staying in touch with TVA and having our utilities manage resources effectively and looking at power demand and all those kinds of things. We are trying to be in much, much better shape and give Nashvillians as much visibility into our response as we possibly can.
Now, climate change is at the root of all of these issues that we're facing. How confident do you feel in the city's ability to adapt and adjust and address the issues that happen during extreme climate events year round?
Yeah, we know that we are experiencing increased impact of severe weather on the ground in Nashville. I already had a conversation with our director of Metro Water Services, Scott Potter, just as I was finishing up my tenure on council about how they used to look at 50-year flood events and that we're seeing an increase in rate. That means that window may need to be evaluated at the 10-year mark and what that would mean from an infrastructure cost standpoint. We're very glad to have Kendra Abkowitz on our team, who stayed with us from Mayor Cooper's administration. I worked with her closely on a variety of things when she was on Metro Council. For Mayor Cooper, she produced a climate action plan. This was really the what you would maybe say the approach to, hey, we're going to try to prevent as much as we can. With us, just a few months ago, she prepared a final version of a climate adaptation and resiliency plan that really is these things that say, yes, even as we try to prevent future harms and limit future severe weather events, we also know that at the same time, on almost a parallel track, we have to do this mitigation strategy, right? So you're doing adaptation and mitigation at the same time as you're doing kind of preparedness and so in that, embedded in that are some things related to stormwater, are some things related to everything from building codes to how we continue to bring emissions down and bring energy efficiency up, energy resiliency up. And so our most recent capital spending plan prepared more solar for Metro facilities than we've ever had before. And it's at sites like schools and parks, the fairgrounds. That joins projects like we flipped the switch on the largest solar array at Metro Water, which is good news, not just for ratepayers, but in extreme cold events like this, when TVA reaches out to core utilities like Nashville Electric Service and Metro Water Service to say, hey guys, voluntarily, we're going to ask you to reduce power consumption and maybe consider going on generator to keep demand off the grid. The nice thing about having Metro Water have such an extensive solar capacity now means they've got resiliency on the ground. They are able to, through battery power and real-time solar, ensure that not only do ratepayers get advantages, but also that that need for curtailment during high demand periods actually drops year over year. And so we're trying to do things like that mean not only do we get clean air and water, but also that we get energy security and resiliency. So these things tend to be multi-way wins when we get them done right, but it is something we're actively working on and really appreciate Kendra's work on resiliency for us.
It's your turn to talk Thursdays. We have our guest today is Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell. If you want to call to have a question or comment, give us a ring, 615-760-2000. That's 615-760-2000. Now I want to move on to the consolidation of Metro Historical Commission and Historic Zoning Commission under the Metro Planning Department. Councilmember Emily Benedict filed legislation earlier this month that would move the now standalone Metro Historical Commission and Historic Zoning Commission under the Metro Planning Department. First, explain to us briefly what these three departments do.
Yeah, so we have the Metro Planning Commission for years has been the department that deals with a lot of our land use and long-range planning. So if you live in a neighborhood and a property owner somewhere on your block decides they want to do something maybe more significant than a single family house. And they have an existing set of entitlements, a base zoning district for their property. They can go approach the Metro Planning Commission and say, hey, we'd like to rezone this to something that the Planning Commission will make a determination, hey, is this not only consistent with policy, but where community preference is here? So they produced, for instance, a general plan of Nashville called Nashville Next 10 years ago. It breaks up the city into community policy, community planning areas that break parcels down by first transect and then individual properties or groups of properties. And they've been the stewards of that. They have a staff that supports that process in a variety of different ways. That is also where our housing division is located. So it tends to be a key part of thinking about growth in the city and how we manage it. Then around the corner, with key offices at the recently renovated Sunnyside project in Sevier Park in the 12 South neighborhood, there are two kind of sister organizations, the Metro Historical Commission and the Metro Historic Zoning Commission. Metro Historical does things like historic markers. They've been the engine behind the really amazing Nashville Sites project, which kind of offers walking tours that you can do self-guided. They really track. They track things like the Nashville City Cemetery project. They just put on one of my favorite Black History Month events, which is the African American Conference on History and Culture in partnership with TSU, which is now in its 44th year, and it's an amazing conference that just went on Friday. And interestingly, one of this year's core themes was resiliency. But then there is the Metro Historic Zoning Commission. And so, for instance, within my neighborhood, we have a neighborhood conservation zoning overlay. Downtown, including Broadway, has historic preservation zoning overlays. And so that regulatory element is kind of the steward of places where groups of people in the city have said, we want to preserve properties, we want to limit demolition, we want to promote character, and we want to do all of that. And so we're tracking a couple things. We're tracking, before Councilmember Benedict's bill, Darren Jernigan on our team, former state representative, has continued to do work with the state legislature to see what's going on. There are two very concerning bills related to this that would actually damage our regulatory authority, and one that may open up the whole code here on a statewide basis. And so I think Councilmember Benedict's bill is in many ways a response to trying to limit the impact of preemption and maybe get these state bills to go away potentially.
Now, Metro Historic Executive Director Tim Walker has been critical of the potential consolidation, as has Ellen Hurd, president of the preservation advocacy group Historic Nashville. Now, your office commissioned an independent audit to study the situation. Can you tell us what the findings were?
Yeah, so we had an independent audit of our entire development services process. When I took office, I had been dealing with some affordable housing projects in District 19, which I used to represent on the Metro Council, and knew that we had some consistency we needed to offer across everything from water to fire inspections to utility coordination to the permitting process. And so we had an independent entity come in and look at core pieces of that puzzle. Well, we had gotten contacted by some folks that were intending to file state legislation last year, and we said, hey, can we stop the conversation here for a second and go back and do some internal review? And so we asked this same process that was looking at development services, since that actually in the overlay districts includes Metro Historic Zoning Commission, could they include that? We've since met with Tim. He shared with us some concerns about scope of that project, some inaccuracies in the final report. And we said, look, this is why we do drafts. We want to go back and get all this stuff right. He had some recommendations he wanted to put in on the table in addition to those recommendations. And I think we're now kind of in that space of threading the needle between trying to limit the impact of potential state preemption and not lose any of the character and preservation scenarios that have made not only downtown Nashville, but certainly kept a lot of our neighborhoods with something that, is representative of Nashville's history, including some of the history of how people have moved throughout the city. And so that conversation is very active. We have met with Tim and several of his commissioners. We have met with the Preservation Society. We are continuing to meet with stakeholders to try to get to the best possible outcome here.
All right. It's your turn to talk Thursdays. You can be just like Bonnie in Nashville, who's calling to talk with Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Bonnie, thank you so much for giving us a call. What would you like to share?
Yes, I wanted to talk to the mayor a little bit about the issue with Percy Warner Park and Cheekwood and the dilemma that Cheekwood is having regarding parking and all of the traffic on the road to Cheekwood. And I'm concerned about us, as he was just talking about preserving our neighborhoods. I think the original intent of the park was for recreation and for conservation, and for us to begin to think, it's okay to build another road through the park, alongside where there's a bike path, doesn't really, it's not in line with the original intent of, Luke Lee's giving the park to the community, which, we all love and cherish. And so I guess I'm concerned about that. And as we're, Cheekwood having other difficulties, and now we're going to have a swan ball in the Percy Warner Park with a huge tent, which again, I'm not sure that was a part of the intent of the gift of the park. So I'm hoping that the mayor can enlighten us on, what his thoughts are on that, and how we can maybe come up with another solution rather than building another road, which once we begin to do that, I think then we're going down a path that we're doing a lot all over the city. Parking is an issue all over the city, but we're not, we just can't keep building roads through historic parks just to, meet that need, or at least that's my opinion. And I think a lot of people share in the community, and not everybody is really aware of what's going on. So I'll let the mayor respond.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah, happy to talk about that, Bonnie. I grew up going to Cheekwood. Our family loves going to Cheekwood. I think it's an extraordinary community asset with not just the botanical garden and the trains exhibit and all of the arts and camps and ways for people to get out there for things like the Japanese moon viewing or Day of the Dead celebrations. They do so much with youth arts programs. And it's just, it's a really pretty remarkable private, but pretty accessible part of the city in terms of the number of people that visit it every year. That obviously puts pressure on a lot of things. It puts pressure, as you've indicated, on the nearby Warner Parks, where we've seen an increased interest in both golf and mountain biking. It also puts increased pressure on the neighborhoods, which are enduring a lot of the traffic on what are neighborhood streets that were designed to be neighborhood streets years ago. I think what we got to was when we took office, we were getting to a period where an MOU between Cheekwood and Parks that is allowed Cheekwood to park. There's a question of the legality of some of the terms of the MOU, where Cheekwood has had some off-site parking that is on Parks land that is deed restricted. And so we wanted to find the best possible solution to this. There isn't currently a plan to put a road, that would tear up any part of parkland. But I do think that we're looking at an option to create an access point to Cheekwood off of Highway 100, which would, in fact, really help the surrounding community in terms of a neighborhood road safety perspective. We've had a number of accidents along the corridors that lead to Cheekwood. There are not sufficient sidewalks in that community at this time, and they're not really neighborhood streets that were designed to accommodate heavy traffic flow. If you think about other major community assets like the Nashville Zoo, our museums, they tend to be along major corridors, and Cheekwood is very close to the Highway 100 corridor. And we think we could create not only a more successful transit and multimodal access point, but potentially find a roadway that's consistent with not just Parks' interests, but Friends Group's interests and Cheekwood's interests, as they've been a good faith participant in this and agreed to withdraw from the offsite parking fully onto their property. So I would say there's not a final plan yet, but I do think the concept of exploring an access point off of Highway 100 is definitely worth exploring, especially if Cheekwood is willing to relocate all of the parking that's currently taking place on Parks land on their property so we could fully reclaim that Parks land and put it into better public use.
All right. Thank you so much, Bonnie, for your call. Really appreciate it. Have a good day, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. We're going to take a break, but I just want to make this message be known. We had a call from Glenn, but the call dropped. So, Glenn, if you're listening out there, we'd love for you to call us back, as we would love everyone else to call us back, because it's your turn to talk. You can talk with Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Call us at 615-760-2000, 615-760-2000. Glenn, I'm talking to you. Stay with us. This is Nashville.
Funding for This is Nashville comes from Burr and Foreman Law Firm, serving clients with transactional, litigation, and regulatory needs. Discovering how each client defines a win and working with them every step of the way to achieve it. Burr.com. Funding for This is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil A. Colonna, and this is Nashville. It's that time of the month, and it's a Thursday. That means it's your turn to talk. Our guest, as he comes here monthly, is Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Again, Mr. Mayor, thank you for being here. And you can call him up, 615-760-2000, 615-760-2000. Now, Mr. Mayor, we're going to talk about FUSIS right now. Back in December, your office proposed legislation to implement FUSIS, which is a law enforcement surveillance technology that allows business owners and homeowners, I believe, to give police access to their security footage in real time. The bill was narrowly defeated last year, but your office is now proposing similar legislation. Can you tell us what this new legislation is?
Yeah, and I'll say we had a council member approach us, Councilmember Roland Horton, who had expressed some concerns and wound up voting no at the end of the year on the original proposal, which, just to give a quick synopsis of what FUSIS is, this is a program that allows technology to be implemented alongside existing cameras. So I know, for instance, there are many cameras not only in downtown, but in areas surrounding it. We have a lot of businesses, from hotels and motels to any place that might have a parking garage or stairwell that has cameras. And increasingly what we've seen is we've had both violent crime and property crime occur in and around these locations, and going to different vendors, work with different levels of staff for a homicide detective or anybody else who's investigating a crime that's already occurred. It makes resolution of those crimes more difficult if we could otherwise create real-time access. So this doesn't result in the installation of new cameras. It's not a public camera program. What it does is basically take already installed private cameras and enable Metro Nashville Police Department, if and only if they get a request from services to businesses that have opted into this program, to be able to review that footage in real time or close to real time, to potentially intervene in a crime in progress, or certainly have better reliability of resolving crimes that have already occurred. And I would say, in terms of the public safety benefit that you get from this program, this strikes me as a very common sense approach, because it's not an expansion of anything. It basically just brings MMPD closer to the scene of something that has been a request for service. Councilmember Horton approached us after the vote and said, all right, I had some concerns, but I would like to recommend that we put in front of my colleagues an approach that says some of the guardrails that you all used, Community Review Board review data to establish policies, we'd like to get those codified in the Metro Code of Laws. And so we said, great. And so what we saw before the meeting was interrupted by concerns about snow this past Tuesday, was a continuation of discussion of his bill that kind of puts guardrails in place for the FUSIS program. If council gets to the end of those deliberations, agrees that those guardrails would be satisfactory, my hope would be that we could revisit the contract that would enable it, as well as restore some uses that MMPD had available to them already under other capabilities of fuses like real-time video, real-time car tracking, basically, some other capabilities for their vehicles and their fleet. And they lost those capabilities when the contract expired toward the end of the year. So we'd like to get those things back online and ideally increase this capacity for crime resolution and intervention with the support of Metro Council. So we're hoping that we're building trust and confidence in the program, and we'll probably find out over the next few weeks.
So these are legal guardrails as opposed to policy guardrails.
Yeah, I mean, I would say to me, it really has the same effect, but I understand council's interest in making sure that this is built into the Metro Code of Laws. I think there was some concern that if they put it there, that they are the principal stewards of the Metro Code, whereas if it's a policy, this came up in the discussion on the floor, even as good as the policy was, I think that we developed, there were concerns that, hey, it even got updated during this discussion. We didn't know about it. It's actually been, for me, especially coming from the background of IT and software, where I love being able to look at change logs and kind of see who accessed something when. It's also given us an opportunity to go back and look at some ITS things so that we could say across all of Nashville.gov, for instance, when was a resource last updated, kind of which department has authority for it. So it's prompted some other good accountability discussions.
All right, we're going to take some phone calls. We got Ben in downtown. Ben, thank you for calling us, my friend. What would you like to share?
Hi, thank you so much. So this may not be the most pressing issue in the city, but a lot of people that work downtown are curious about what's going on at the courthouse. So there used to be these beautiful, really cool water fixtures, water fountains, right there at the courthouse, 2nd and Union. 5, 6, 7 years ago, they stopped working. They shut the water off. But late last year, a construction crew showed up and started working on the fountains. And everyone was excited, thinking they're going to finally bring the fountains back to life. But then they just covered them with this kind of cheap-looking turf carpet stuff and just left. So I was wondering, are we just leaving it like that, or what's going on with the fountains?
No, Ben, what I hope I have is good news for you that's incomplete at this time. So when I took office, I saw the same thing that you did, because not only representing District 19, which includes City Hall and Public Square, I saw these things happen, and we had some little things inside City Hall too, including just some damage that seemed to be persistent in an elevator that leads up to the Metro Council chambers. And so when I took office, I made it a focus to work with General Services and Metro Parks to start to restore some of the things right there, because this is the heart of our government, and we should be doing it well. So not only the observation towers there that were a part of the original vision of Public Square Park, but yes, also the water features that were part of that fountain. And unfortunately, and then you maybe have seen too, there's been some weatherization happening. I mean, the view of Public Square I had from my own office for just a few months went away for the better part of a year behind scaffolding as some water intrusion work was done on the building. So we've had just some core upkeep to do, but most of what has been happening has been restoration. I hope you've maybe seen the lights come back on in the public sculptures that have been out there. But yeah, month by month, we've been trying to restore this. What we discovered was that a lot of the plumbing that was designed in that water feature scenario seemed to sort of be a one-time custom job, and so we're trying to make sure we get it right this time. But my hope is that by the time the weather warms up, we will have water flowing back into the water features at Public Square Park.
All right. Thank you so much for giving us a call.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Have a good one, my friend. Okay, we're going to go to Jody. Let me work this out. Okay, now here, we're going to go to Jody in West Nashville. She's got a question about fuses. Jody, thanks for calling. What would you like to share?
Hi, I just wanted to ask the mayor, can you point to other cities where this program has worked well and shown a better clearance on, whether it's homicide or violent crime rates? And also, would he be open to discontinuing programs that don't don't work or don't hit agreed upon metrics. I guess as a citizen, I'm just kind of concerned about the encroaching surveillance state, the militarization of our police force. And a lot of times they're given these tools and they're never taken away, right? It's always just added to. But is there, do you have any kind of guidepost in there that it's hey, we don't see this working, so we're gonna end this program, and how would you kind of make that determination?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. We do try to be performance-based, and I will say Metro Nashville Police Department participates on a regular basis with our Office of Performance Management, and so we are constantly looking at benchmarks. We do expect this to have an impact on clearance rates, but we will be working with it, and I know that's important to Metro Council too. I know Knoxville just recently implemented it, and interestingly, they actually implemented it with fewer guardrails than we are proposing, and that Metro Council is joining us in proposing. And so I think one of the things that's been critically important for us is to say, in so many ways, this is we're looking at it from the standpoint of, I know LPRs went through a pilot period. We're trying to do that too, to make sure that we capture data and that not only we, but Metro Council and the general public have confidence in the system. I mean, I do understand the concern about the encroachment of what feels like a surveillance state. In this case, these are cameras that are already up and capturing footage right now. And, I'm honestly, I've been surprised by how many of my own neighbors and people across the city have put Ring cameras up. I mean, I feel like in terms of where Fusus is and the footprint of surveillance that's there across all the smartphones and Ring cameras that we already have up, this is a minuscule amount that actually is in areas that tend to be already likelier crime. But I think one of the things that we do want to make sure we're in a position of is making sure we share the impact as best we can. I mean, there will be some times that you don't see clearance rates, but we'll see if we can get some of the data to share. I know people on our team working with MMPD have been working on making sure we have the best data available on this and looking at other cities, but we'll try to improve that. I don't have it at my fingertips today while I'm sitting here in the studio, but we'll see if we can get it posted somewhere.
All right. Thank you so much.
Maybe a general follow-up, will the city Metro be storing that data if it's not used in an active criminal investigation?
No, that Fusus doesn't store data that way for that purpose.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Appreciate your call, Jody. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to go to Ann in Nashville. Ann, thank you for calling. What do you want to share?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. So I just want to ask the mayor, the arts and music are critical to Nashville, so I'm curious why the city is forcing TPAC to another location in the original site on the East Bank, where an iconic building that would be viewable by all visitors and downtown Nashvillians will no longer have that sightline from Broadway. And I hope the answer isn't money.
And thanks for the question. We are, in fact, doing the opposite. We gave TPAC first right of refusal on their preferred parcel and had them right in there with the master development agreement we struck with the Fallon Company, where we went straight to council and expressed to not just TPAC, who had already been deeply involved in the conversation, but the council as a whole. And this will be refreshed at next week's rescheduled East Bank Development Authority meeting, that TPAC agreed fully that they wanted that parcel badly enough that they would voluntarily participate in some of the infrastructure costs to the tune of an expected $50 million. I think it's unclear to me why that seems to have become a sticking point as we've gotten refined estimates. And so we've still got a seat at the table. We're hoping to continue the conversation with TPAC, and we certainly hope that they will remain with their initial preference of where they told us they wanted to be, and we welcome them with open arms into the discussion.
All right. Thank you so much for the call, Ann. Have a good day, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go to Kevin in Cheatham County. Kevin, thanks for holding, my friend. What do you want to share?
Well, Mayor, I appreciate you.
Thanks, Kevin.
I really appreciate what you do. But my question is, I grew up in Nashville. I am well respect you. What do you do? What do you do? It's amazing. My question is, I love family run before you, the mayor and our representative in Washington. So my question is, are you going to run to become the best ever?
Well, I will say it this way. I have always liked my politics local, and I'm fully intent on remaining in a local elected office and have no intention of looking at anything else.
Some people have been asking about a run for governor.
Nope. Definitively no.
You know more than anybody else.
That I can say unequivocally is not true. I appreciate being a lifelong learner, but there are plenty of people with deeper subject matter expertise on so many topics that I admire them for.
Our campaign for you, if you run, and you will be the best successful.
Well, I appreciate the vote of confidence, but Nashville is the city I love and enjoy having the opportunity to raise my family here and have these opportunities. But thank you.
I'm saying Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna do my best while I have the opportunity to do this job, and have no intention whatsoever of seeking statewide office or trying to move to D.C.
Kevin, thank you so much for your call, my friend. Have a beautiful day. Okay.
You're doing a great job.
Appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, you know who's going to head up your campaign should you decide
now I know.
to run for governor.
I hope you guys saved Kevin's number, I guess.
Yeah, you got support in Cheatham County. All right, we're going to take one last call. We're going to go to Dean in West Nashville. Dean, thanks for calling. What do you want to share?
Hey, guys. I appreciate you taking my call. Really enjoying the show. And hello, Freddie. I'm also a graduate at the same high school, but it was a couple years after you.
Oh, well, there you go. You might have known my brother.
I actually believe I knew your mom.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to give a quick call about I live on the west side of Nashville, and we're seeing a tremendous amount of growth out there. Unfortunately, with that, though, I'm seeing that there's a lot of beautiful nature areas that are being taken away for construction, a lot of wildlife and roadkill on the roads. I'm just hoping to express my concern as well. I just want to make sure that the city is taking into consideration some of the beautiful landscape that we have surrounding on the outside of Davidson County and all the trees and the beautiful hills we have. I'm just hoping that the city will continue to, look at it carefully before developments, apartment buildings and such are allowed in some of our beautiful scenery, especially with all our trees. Just more so just concerned about that growth, and I'm hoping that we're going to be able to keep our beautiful scenery the way it is.
Yeah, no, Dean, appreciate the call. When we took office, I engaged Kendra Abkowitz on our team, who's worked on a variety of these things, as well as our parks and planning departments, to kind of look at scenarios like the Highland Rim. We've had the Land Trust for Tennessee and some other organizations working with us. We missed an opportunity a few years ago to pick up a big Bells Bend area property at a fairly reasonable price. And so we wanted to have a strategic approach to these kinds of things, just like Bob Mendez, our chief development officer, looks at our portfolio of public land. We're trying to have our planning, parks, and mayor's office aligned on when these opportunities come up, what are the partnership scenarios that allow us to organize those. And all that's happening while we've improved tree policies. While I was on Metro Council, I had a lot of colleagues who were great leaders on this. They've made significant improvements, and we've been excited about the Route Nashville program, which just planted its 50,000th tree en route to the 500,000 anticipated. So we're trying to not only preserve, but where we can restore parts of our canopy, and then make sure that we have those amazing opportunities like Beeman, Bells Bend, Shelby Bottoms, that we have these great swaths of open space that are always going to be available to Nashvillians.
Dean, thank you so much for your call. Really appreciate it. And we appreciate everyone who has called in. We want to thank our mayor, Freddie O'Connell. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for coming in and taking these calls. Really
Thanks,
appreciate
Khalil.
it.
Good to be with you.
Always good to be with you, my friend. Okay, we're going to take one last break. When we return, we'll hear a special report on a move that residents from Berkshire Place Apartments in East Nashville are undertaking, and learn about what happens when an entire community is relocated. Stick with us. This is Nashville.
We want Freddie for a leader. state and raise your champagne glass. We want Freddie for Aliyah. Freddie is a Santa Claus. We want Freddie for Aliyah. Who stays and raise your champagne glass.
I'm Khalil A. Kulona, and this is Nashville. All right, we're going to round out today's episode by taking a trip out to East Nashville and then to Madison with residents of Berkshire Place Apartments. They're finally in the middle of moving years after they were first told their units would need to be vacated and either renovated or torn down. This is Nashville's managing editor, Tasha A.F. Lemley, followed along with the process, she learned about what's at stake when an entire community must move.
Welcome home! Welcome home!
Last summer, people living in Berkshire Place Apartments were asked to pack their bags for Birchstone Village. It's a brand new 228-unit affordable housing property that's roughly 4 years in the making and 7 miles north in Madison. It's a long time to be on hold. But Pastor Glenda Sutton has been waiting for this day much longer. She's the senior pastor of Family Affair Ministries, living and working with Berkshire families for more than 2 decades.
There's an opportunity for something new. There's an opportunity for mamas with 5 and 6 kids to have a washer and a dryer. That'd be worth the move just by itself. There's an opportunity. Every family, every apartment has a balcony. There's an opportunity for people to dream who never dreamed. Can you imagine what it's like, how hard it is for people inside of a housing community to watch things change all around them? You pull out of the gate and you see the beautiful new house built across the street. You see all the pretty new apartments and things that are being built all around you. There's an opportunity for a mama who's sitting in her apartment down there with babies just looking out of the window to now look out and see something different, to be a part of something different.
Sutton says this is a move nearly everyone is excited about, like resident Michael Moore, a single father itching to get going.
I can say I feel like everyone is going to do better once they leave, just because it has been so many, I can say it, demons on this property. It has been a lot of distractions on this property. It has been a lot of degrading on this property. And I feel like when we move, I feel like it's going to be more of a community. Nothing is wrong with change. You know, we see that the city is growing. It's time for all of us to grow and elevate.
Sutton has knighted Moore as somewhat of a cornerstone to these new apartments. She wants him to set the tone and the culture, help model what the new place can be.
I need one with the mindset to be the first fruit. It's giving God your best, giving him your first. So I need a first fruit offering because we're going into a new land. We're going to a new place. And I want to offer God, step back. We don't want the mouse to get you. See the little mouse coming down the stairs there?
A small mouse runs up the stairs right by us. And then he makes a couple trips back up and down.
You see my little mouse?
A few buildings over, Joquisha Williams has lived at Berkshire for 4 years.
Mice. I have an autistic son that he is terrified of the mice that's running around in here. I have been dealing with mold, mice. Just my heater is not working properly. It's running my light bill up sky high. I'm ready to go. Like, we're so ready to go. My son ready to go. They told us to pack up. We got boxes in his room where he can't even lay down because they told us to pack up. And we've been like this for like a year. And we're basically have no room in here. And we're tired. We're ready to go.
Down a path behind the homes lives a Dollar General. It's so close, it's almost in the apartment complex. Sutton fought to bring this store in years ago. It's the only place for groceries within walking distance for some residents. And it's also saying goodbye. Shelves are bare, and closing signs, they're up. Berkshire resident Terica Holmes, she's headed over to see what's left. She says she's looking forward to the move. She's going to miss the place.
And this is my first apartment, so I'm definitely going to miss it. I think I'm going to cry. I'm getting emotional now.
Heading back from the store is a woman who asked to only be referred to as T. She says she's not going. She takes issue with some of the other residents, as well as management and increased security at the new location.
So, I mean, it's a nice apartment. I'm not going to say it's not nice. I would love to go, but I don't have time for the childishness. And my peace is getting interrupted. It's all negativity every time you turn around. I don't have time.
Berkshire has been federally subsidized for decades. And even though the units are still passing inspection, they needed significant help. Mackenzie Trent is with Trent Development Group, the lead developer of the project. And she's closely tied to the longtime manager of the units.
What are we going to do with this property? We have 195 families. We need to rebuild it. The units were small. They don't have washers and dryers. The paint, it's just old. We build better now.
The Better building is up in Madison on land bought to develop years ago. Between the pandemic, a half dozen sources of funding and tax credits, and applications and waiting periods, Trent said it's been a bit of a juggling act. But it's finally going live, with only about 5 families choosing not to make the move. They'll get vouchers to find another place to live. The new Birchstone Village is a gated community with a fitness center and playground. About a week before the move started, members of the church met to pray over the space.
Lord, that your angels are stationed at every entry and every exit, Father God. Your angels are standing.
They're on a bus line, and considerations are being made to help the kids finish out the year in their current schools. There's hope for 12-step groups, GED classes, and other services. And Sutton's ministry will offer programs and have worship on site. And in early February, the first residents got their keys.
Thank you for giving us the energy to make it up here. In Jesus' name, amen.
Miss Sylvia Wiggins is in her 70s. She lived at Berkshire for 22 years and now makes her way to her 4th-floor apartment at Birchstone.
But you know, I didn't know I was going way up. I thought I was going to be on the 3rd floor. Okay.
Wiggins gets an overwhelming download of all her new appliances.
It's gonna take a while for me for the dishwasher, I tell you.
You've never had a dishwasher?
Mm-mm. But once you get used it, you'll love it. Yeah.
About 10 units a day are moving in, day by day, until Berkshire is empty. Plans are still in flux for the old property. Michael Moore and his boys, Malachi and Michael III, are likely the first family finishing their move and staying the night in their new home.
I got the keys.
Let's go inside the house. You see? In the middle of the hallway, we got a washer and dryer. You know what I'm saying? Oh, here go one room. Decent, pretty big room. Walk-in closet. Know what I'm saying? Nice little setup room. Then the master room, which is pretty big. Look like a smart bathroom. It's like
Let's go, Malachi. Malachi, let's go.
But there y'all more marble counters, good cabinets, Airbnb cabinets.
What makes it an Airbnb cabinet?
Because like when you go to an Airbnb, straight marble. At Berkshire, wood, horrible. Now, down here.
Pastor Sutton stays down in the community center, welcoming each resident home, handing out gift bags. I had asked her back when we first met if this move was a loss to East Nashville, and if the residents were getting a good deal. She tosses the question back.
So when you ask me, did I think this was a good thing? So what do you think now?
For WPLN News, I'm Tasha A.F. Lemley.
I've been moving.
Since we last checked in with residents, Pastors Glenda Sutton and Vera Davis say 150 families have completed their move to Birchstone in Madison, leaving less than a dozen families to go. They say the kids are loving the playground and the teens have taken over the basketball court. But the thing everyone is enjoying about the most is those in-unit washers and dryers. There's been a lot of excitement, as well as some fear. Pastor Vera says that's a normal thing when we're doing something new. She says, quote, for some families, it's the first time they've lived outside of East Nashville. And so moving to a new township in Madison brings a learning curve, learning to navigate and to know where things are and how to get there, learning the bus routes, end quote. She also says the only big concern parents have is that whether they leave their kids in school where they are or move children in the middle of a semester to a new school. Some of the families have cars that can drive back and forth for the rest of the school year, but others don't. So they're looking for some resources to bridge that gap. They'd also like more sidewalks in the community. We'd like to thank our managing editor, Tasha A.F. Lemley, for this story. And many thanks to you for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced by Tasha A.F. Lemley and Mary Mancini. It was directed by Tasha A.F. Lemley. Our technical director and board operators, Liv Lombardi, Catherine Cece's answered the phones. The masterminds behind our theme music are LaRange and Namir Blade. You can listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. The conversation doesn't end here. Comment and tell us what you want to hear on the show by leaving us a message at 615-751-2500. You can also find us on the socials, Blue Sky, Instagram, and X at This Is Nashville. And I don't normally do this, but we're going to wish happy birthday, weekend birthdays to our technical director, Liv Lombardi, and her twin, Ari. We're going to give a happy birthday note to our good friend of the show, Stephen Doster, and another good friend who's, not necessarily in the state, but chemo-licious and nutritious. I know you're listening. Happy birthday to you. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Ekalona. We'll see you on Monday, everybody. And be good to each other.